So we are getting back to the Epstein stuff. If anyone doesn't know, Epstein Transparency Act passed, and on the due date, they were supposed to put everything out, but they didn't. And what they gave us was, bro, it was basically just all redactions and black lines pretty much everywhere. But then people found out it was an Adobe document. So all they did was they copy pasted it, put the words out, and then boom, you could see the words they redacted. And it's freaking sad. I'm just gonna say this. I fully expected that from the government because the government has been poisoned by like you already can tell by Congress, by people who don't know how to fucking use computers, who don't know. So a mistake that big and that beneficial for the public, man. The thing is, it was good that it came out, but it was bad that people immediately posted online saying, "Oh, we found this thing which allows us to do this, this, and that." Because guess what? The FBI can see those videos too. So then these people fucked it up. And I remember they got a hold of, I think it was the eighth document in the Epstein stuff somehow. And then now we are here with a little more stuff released from the Epstein stuff. But let's see what we get to. But yeah, it's like all black boxes and it's like all different events. Just different pictures, but just it was like Jeffrey Epstein was a financier slash business mogul. So he has a lot of pictures with a lot of people. And the thing is, having a picture with him doesn't make you guilty. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where you don't know who he knew or who he didn't know. Because the thing was, a lot of celebrities knew him, a lot of rich people knew him. But the thing is, having a picture with him, it doesn't look good, but you don't know if they actually did anything. At least the way things are going, like there's pretty much nothing. Nothing outside of Ghislaine Maxwell. Like there's pretty much got shit.
The DOJ says that it has uncovered potentially over 1 million more Epstein related files. And so the
Holy
Justice
shit.
Department
I'm gonna say this. Pam Bondi needs to be fucking arrested on the spot. Bro, she fucking sucks. Pam Bondi sucks ass, man. She sucks ass at her job. Like I don't know who has to do it, but just fire her. Like I'll say this, like Tom Holman, like people see the way he takes over the border, and they're like, "Oh, how many people are you gonna deport?" He's like, "Until all of them are gone, I won't stop." I want someone like that replacing Pam Bondi. I think she's the most useless member of his entire administration, and it's absolutely pathetic she has not been fired yet. Like, is the government just so corrupt you can't do shit at all to prosecute anybody? Or is it just Pam Bondi is so useless that you can't do shit at all? And then you can't even release things correctly. And then everything she's done has fucked this office up in every step of the way. Well, yeah, I believe she should be fired, man, at this point.
released this information on Wednesday, and this was potentially found by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York and the FBI, and they are currently reviewing them
Ooh.
for release. And so, of course, we've been following this as the DOJ has since released thousands of new documents from the Epstein files yet earlier this week on Tuesday as well. And so to talk a little bit more about what we're seeing here with this potential new
Almost forgot. But Trump did handle this shit fucking terribly. Bro, this has been the biggest shit stain in his administration. He handled this shit bad.
batch of files that the DOJ is going to be investigating, I want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me, Christina.
And so, Nima, I have to first ask you here, when it comes to the Epstein files and the DOJ now saying they potentially have 1 million more files that need to be released, does this surprise you
Damn.
at any point? What does this all mean now that they've said this?
Christina, I wish I could say I'm surprised, but this is another continued embarrassment for the Department of Justice. We are now
Bro, yeah.
1 week removed from the December 19th deadline for the DOJ to produce the Epstein files, and obviously they have not met that deadline, at least in full. Now they're saying there's another million documents that have yet to be reviewed.
Bro, yeah, fucking course, man. Bro, it's a shit stain, but it's like I know the courts have access to some sealed documents, and then DOJ has access to their own. But like, this is a bad look. Like, if they want to say it ahead of, they should have just said ahead of time, we can release this stuff, but we are trying to get this information from these courts out. Please give us some time. But instead, they handled it so poorly that this looks bad.
Let's not forget that Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier this year said that the Epstein files were sitting on her desk just waiting review. She promised to
Yeah,
make them
she said
public
that.
well before the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Well, it seems like she didn't even have a full sense of the Epstein files because I doubt she had a million documents sitting on her desk. And we're talking about the Southern District of New York. These are the career prosecutors who prosecuted Epstein the second time in 2019. So, of course, they would have more documents. It's really
Yeah,
shocking how disorganized and frankly late the DOJ has been, and they continue to, whether it's in terms of the redactions or delays or withholding documents outright, fail to follow the law. So it's very disappointing that
bro,
those that are
Bill again.
tasked to enforce the law.
Oh yeah, I remember. Bill Clinton's administration or someone who was moderating it said, "We want all the stuff released, no matter how many pictures of Bill was on it." And I think that was a W move on his part. But we will get to this.
Can't even follow the law. I hope they can get their act together soon in the coming weeks.
And Nima, as we're talking about, I want to put up that statement that the Justice Department actually put out on their own X account talking about this, saying the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the FBI have informed the Department of Justice that they have uncovered over 1 million more documents potentially related.
Well, here's my thought. I'm just gonna straight up say it. I think it's because of retardation that they keep that this keeps happening. I think it's purely retardation. I don't think it's because the government is well run. I think they just have so many old retards who don't know how to use computers and lose shit all the time. I think this is 100% the reason. It's just they need to at least fire at least 50% of the staff because I think they're fucking useless at this point. 'Cause there's no way. There's no way it took. There's no way like everything's this inefficient, this slow, and this pathetic.
Jeffrey Epstein case. The DOJ has received these documents from the Southern District of New York and the FBI to review them for release and compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, existing statutes, and judicial orders. We have lawyers who are working around the clock to review and make the legally required redactions to protect those victims, and we will release the documents as soon as possible. Due to the mass volume of material, this process may take a few more weeks. The department will continue to fully comply with federal law and President Trump's direction to release the files. Nima, I have to
Mm-hmm.
ask you because it is interesting. You mentioned it. It was that deadline 1 week ago that the Epstein files were supposed to be released
That's
underneath the
true.
Epstein Transparency Act that President Trump signed. Is it not interesting that this comes about after that they say they found these 1 million more documents? Will we be able to know any true timeline of when they were discovered, or is it likely that this information is going to stay behind doors there with the Justice Department?
Well, I'm just gonna straight up say it's retarded people that should have like retired 20 years ago. I bet. I'm still on that. I think this is just they fucked up on every level, and they gotta fire half the staff. They gotta bring some new young people in because these old people have proven that they do not want to fucking get out of power, and they are dragging society down at every step because they don't give up their power to younger people.
I don't think we'll know. And for folks that don't understand, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, it is part of the Department of Justice. Those are Department of Justice
Bruh.
prosecutors. And if you're looking at where the Epstein files exist, you'd look to New York, you'd look to Miami. Those are the U.S. Attorney's Office that prosecuted Epstein. So the fact that
Yep.
you now have 1 million documents that had previously been unaccounted for, it leads me to believe that this search was not done in a timely manner, and those that conducted the search really did not do their job because This should have been done weeks ago. Now you're stuck in a situation where the DOJ is further embarrassed. Some people will believe it's a cover up. All of this delay, it just adds fuel to the fire. To those that are watching and who are on social media, believe that this is all a cover up to protect billionaires and politicians.
We will
So now
see.
you have this embarrassing situation where career prosecutors at the DOJ are being asked to work over the holidays to try to do these
Bro, I don't give a fuck, man. They suck at their jobs. Force them to work over the holiday.
redactions and review these documents that frankly should have been done weeks ago, maybe even months ago,
Yeah, it
when
was
the
all black
Department of
squares.
Justice, Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, they promised to make the Epstein files public well before the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So this should have already been done. Now you have further delays, you have more documents, you have redactions, pages, hundreds of pages that are redacted entirely. One other important deadline that we really should be talking about, Christina, is going to be in early January. That is when the DOJ is supposed to provide a log of any documents that are withheld or redacted. That will allow House Democrats to potentially challenge those redactions by filing a lawsuit in court, and a judge may have to sort through this to say, hey, are these redactions all warranted? Because if you look at the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there are only three categories of documents that can be redacted or withheld.
Mm-hmm.
Those are documents identifying victims of sex abuse,
Uh-huh.
any documents showing sex abuse, that would essentially be child pornography, and anything related to an ongoing investigation. And we know that the DOJ issued a memo this summer in July saying there's no legal basis to charge any third parties related to the Epstein files. So I hope the DOJ isn't withholding documents on that basis, although Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche did say the DOJ was going to assert privilege last weekend. That would be very disappointing if true.
And Nima, I'm glad you mentioned that
Yeah.
because that was my next question. Where do we go from here with the files that have been released? Those heavy redactions have been a conversation not only on social media, but also happening in other forms as well. Many journalists have been critical of this as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, and you said there's a date that's going to be happening in January, there they can kind of challenge that. I was wondering if we were going to have to wait if there was going to be another administration to go back through. Are some of these things sort of, is there another path, I should say, to figure out what's in some of the files that haven't been released?
There is a path, and that
Mm-hmm.
would be to file a lawsuit to compel the full production. And then what would happen
Let's see.
is a federal judge, a district judge, would have to sort through these redactions himself or herself or appoint a special master to do so. That's how you challenge redactions.
Damn.
Because obviously,
Bro, that shit sounds long and boring as hell process, man. Jesus.
we don't know what we don't know, but
That's
a
true.
judge can review the files in camera. That's a Latin term that means outside the presence of the parties and the public to determine whether these redactions are warranted. I could tell you, Christina, I think they are excessive, and this is why. There's at least two categories of information that I've seen that appear to be redacted that shouldn't be redacted. The first is grand jury materials, and the judges that have considered this issue have ruled that the Epstein Files Transparency Act trumps, no pun intended, any secrecy that grand jury materials typically have under the rules of criminal procedure. Those materials should not be redacted. The other thing I see is
Damn.
the names of assistant U.S. attorneys, federal prosecutors, those names are being redacted. Again, there's not a legal basis to do so unless they are a victim of sex abuse, which is highly unlikely. Again,
Yeah, that's true. Just unredact all the names of the prosecutors and shit.
these redactions seem excessive. They seem outside of those three categories that I've talked about: victims, child pornography, and ongoing investigations, which I don't think there are any. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point a lawsuit is filed and a judge reviews these redactions and determines that they are excessive and unwarranted.
And Nima, speaking of some of those redactions and lawsuits that could potentially be filed, we do know that the Democratic rep, Ro Khanna of California, says that he and the Republican rep, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, are going to be bringing charges of inherent contempt of Congress against Attorney General Pam Bondi. The two congressmen made that.
To be honest, I'm just gonna say it. Pam Bondi needs to go. She needs to fucking go. Of all the people, she needs to fucking go right this second. and I'm gonna say it. Most likely, Congress is not gonna get anything done. Most likely, nothing's gonna happen to her. Just like nothing happens to anyone in the government. That's 100% gonna be the case. But there's always that like I hope it happens, but I'm not gonna like put like money on it. Probably nothing's gonna happen to her just the same way nothing happened to Tim Waltz or Gavin Newsom or pretty much anybody that did anything.
Of course, they were the one who sponsored the bill on the Epstein files. And they were also talking about potentially making this a larger thing against Attorney General Bondi. I have to ask you, what does that ultimately mean? And charges of inherent contempt of Congress, what potentially does that going to do for Attorney General Pam Bondi?
Roe's one of the best. I know him personally. He's a lawyer as well. And that's certainly one route that he can go to. That's the political route. I think the challenge with contempt of Congress is typically those contempt orders, they are enforced by the Department of Justice. So there's not a whole lot that's going to happen. Obviously, it'll be a big deal politically. Folks are talking about potential articles of impeachment against Bondi. And we'll see if that
We'll see.
happens as well. I really do think, though, Christina, the better route, the more effective route would be a lawsuit because then you have the judiciary. And when you're talking about the judiciary, Article 3, their job really, in many ways, is to deal with disputes between the legislature, Article 1, and the executive, Article 2. That's what we're dealing with here. The
Mm-hmm.
important thing about involving a judge is the judge can also rule on these redactions, determine whether they are legal and appropriate or not. That's not something that can happen through contempt or impeachment proceedings. If this is an issue of public trust and transparency, the American people, members of the media, we deserve the full Epstein files. That was what
Mm-hmm.
was promised to us by Donald Trump when he was candidate, when Attorney General Bondi was appointed. Same with the director of the FBI. Those promises have not been
Yep.
fulfilled. So this is an issue of public trust. This is an issue of transparency. And I believe that a judge needs to get involved to compel the Department of Justice to do their job and follow the law. I think that type of order will be more effective than a contempt of Congress order, in my humble opinion.
It is something that we're going to continue to watch, and we've been putting up some of that reaction as well from the two congressmen. And Thomas Massey says today the DOJ claims the Epstein Maxwell file exceeds 1.7 million documents, and they still.
Bro, that's so much shit. Bro, what were they even documenting? Holy shit. 1.7 million? Oh, my guess is like, well, bro, I'm gonna have to guess. Like, I'm guessing it's like there's a lot of bullshit. Like, oh, for 1.7 million, holy fuck.
Expect you to believe that this only involves two guilty people. I'm glad that he ended up and he brought up Maxwell in all of this because Ghislaine Maxwell, she is a longtime friend. She was a colleague and an ex-girlfriend of Epstein. And we do know that she's currently behind bars for her relation and what she had done as a part of the Epstein whole situation. But I have to ask you, with Ghislaine, there's been a lot of nude attention to her as these files are being released. Do you think that as the files are released that more charges could potentially be brought against her?
If I had to guess, most likely no, because the way the court and stuff works, it's like she technically wouldn't be charged on it. So my guess is probably no. That's my guess.
I think it's unlikely because she's already doing 20 years in federal prison for sex trafficking now. Obviously, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche did interview her personally. She was moved to a lower security prison. Now, the question is, was that a favor to her? Was that something that was just done by the Department of
If it was up to me, we would have done torture. But the problem is, George Bush's presidency fucked it up. Fucked it up. People are not pro torture anymore because of that shit. But if we could have it, that's what I would have done. At least if I was president, or whoever is in charge of like how you get information out of people like this.
the Bureau of Prisons and had nothing to do with her interview with the Deputy Attorney General or the fact that she has continued to assert her innocence and say that there was no sex trafficking at all. She certainly hasn't named names. That's really the surprising thing to me about Ghislaine Maxwell, Christina. I could tell you that having put more than 1,000 people in federal prison, I can only count on two fingers the number of individuals I was unable to flip to cooperate. So the
You
fact
know,
that Maxwell's likely going to die in federal prison and hasn't named names is certainly surprising. That's
yeah, that's the thing. That's fucking surprising on her part. And it's all because we can't do torture anymore. Because apparently people, man, it just sucks. It just sucks that we can't go that method. Goddamn George Bush. If it wasn't, if you didn't fuck shit up for us, we would still be able to at least waterboard people in places like
someone I
that.
would want to lean on to identify the other rich and powerful men that abused young girls with Jeffrey Epstein. I think that's what people want to know. So, is she getting a free pass? Or is she someone who's just being unreasonable? Because I can tell you, I don't believe for a second that she's actually innocent and she had no idea what was going on and she wasn't recruiting and grooming these young girls for Jeffrey Epstein.
And so those Epstein files will continue to come out, according to the Department of Justice. But they did make that claim that there are over 1 million more potentially related to Epstein that have not
Jesus
yet been
Christ.
gone through. Nima, any final thoughts before I let you go? This, of course, is a story that continues to unfold layer by layer.
I think it's important that members of the public, the media, Representatives Khanna and Massey continue to put pressure on the Department of Justice to do what they promised and to follow the law. This is really a rare moment of bipartisanship in Washington, D.C. right now, where
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna say. I think no matter what happens, nobody's gonna be happy unless something bad about somebody appears. Like no matter what, nobody's gonna be happy. Even if everything's out and nothing shows what people want it to be, no one's gonna be happy about it. But let's see, because I know this is mainly the weaponization of the files is what people care about more than the files themselves, like realistically. But yeah, if it doesn't have any Democrat names, they're gonna be mad. If it doesn't have any Republican names, they're gonna be mad. If it doesn't have Bill Clinton's name, they're gonna be mad. But if it doesn't have Trump's name, they're gonna be mad. And this is what I think. That we'll see what happens, but most likely, at least from what I see now, I don't know for sure.
Republicans and Democrats all agree that the Epstein files should be made public, that those who abused young girls should be held accountable. It's sad that Epstein got that sweetheart deal by Alex Acosta when he was U.S. Attorney.
Oh, the Florida plea deal. Yeah, dude, that deal is. Bro, I have no clue how he got that shit. But long story short, it made it so that Epstein's co-conspirators outside of Ghislaine Maxwell could not be federally charged. I think it was like four girls, yeah, four women specifically that you can't that couldn't be charged because of it. But like they were his co-conspirators, and obviously those women then had ties to like other people he might have worked with. But yeah,
In Miami. He never really faced the criminal justice that he deserved, or certainly to the extent that anyone else would have received. And this is just part and parcel of the belief that many people have that the rich and powerful in this country get a free pass. So hopefully, everyone who abused young girls with Jeffrey Epstein is brought to justice. And I really commend Congress for not giving up and forcing this issue.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate Nima Rahmani here for the very latest as the
yeah.
DOJ.
I'm gonna tell you this too. I don't trust Congress to do this in good faith either. I'm just gonna say it. The DOJ is not doing it in good faith. Congress is not doing it in good faith. Trump is not doing it in good faith. And whoever else is involved, all of them are not doing it in good faith. That's the problem. So no matter what we get, we don't fucking know.
Again, made that announcement, potentially over 1 million more documents. Nima, thanks so much. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Christina. Happy holidays to you too.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all. So maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. But at the end of the day, I think this shit's gonna be dragged out for a long past time.